So imagine you're signing a lease for like a brand new house.
Okay.
And the document is surprisingly simple. It contains just one major rule.
Which is?
It says, if you paint the front door red, you will be evicted that exact same day.
Got it.
So out of curiosity, or maybe just, a bit of rebellion, you go ahead and you paint it red.
Naturally.
Right. But you aren't evicted that day.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, you live in that house peacefully for another 60 years.
Wow. Okay.
And then decades later, the landlord finally returns. But instead of just evicting you, the landlord burns down your house, poisons the soil in your garden, and then legally mandates that your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren will all be born with this massive unpayable debt.
All just because you painted that door.
Exactly. Simply because you painted the door.
I mean, if you tried to take that case to a modern court of law, the defense attorney would immediately point out a glaring issue. When you signed that contract, you literally lacked the cognitive ability to understand what a rule, a door, or an eviction even meant.
Which makes the entire scenario completely absurd.
Completely.
Like no rational person would ever accept those terms in any legal or moral framework.
No, of course not.
Yet what we just described is the exact structural logic of, honestly, one of the most foundational stories in human history.
It really is.
Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are putting our brains through a serious workout today.
We definitely are.
We're dissecting a narrative that billions of people have accepted as the literal bedrock of human morality.
Right, the story of original sin.
Exactly. And our mission today is to look at the Genesis text, not as untouchable dogma, but through the lens of rigorous deductive reasoning.
Yeah, we're essentially applying a rational scalpel to a narrative that we usually just accept without a second thought.
Right, because there's a really profound question that emerges when you do this.
Which is, can a concept that supposedly dictates the moral fate of all humanity really stem from a myth that is structurally riddled with logical contradictions?
Right, like an original sin that affects all human destiny cannot possibly come out of a story so full of holes. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
To understand why this story might have a hidden agenda behind it, we first have to look at the foundational crime itself.
The inciting incident.
Right, Adam and Eve in the garden, eating the forbidden fruit. If we look at this strictly as a legal framework, do the rules of this setup even make sense from the start?
Well, if we look at the text structurally, the foundation crumbles almost immediately.
Really? That fast?
Oh, yeah. The first major flaw is what the source calls the paradox of knowing good and evil.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So the text explicitly states that Adam and Eve were punished for disobeying a direct command,
Right.
but the fruit they ate was from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Therefore, logically, before taking that bite, they possessed absolutely no concept of what good or evil actually was.
Wait, I want to push back on that for a second, just to play devil's advocate here.
Sure, go ahead.
Even if they didn't have a grand philosophical framework for morality, they were given a direct rule,
Yeah,
right?
don't eat this.
Exactly. So doesn't the act of just breaking a known rule justify the punishment?
Well, that assumes they understood the moral weight of obedience.
Oh,
Yeah, in modern jurisprudence, we have this concept called mens rea.
mens rea.
Right, it means the guilty mind. To be morally and legally culpable for something, you must have the capacity to understand that your action is wrong.
Got it.
If you have no concept of evil, you cannot comprehend that disobeying the Creator is a bad thing to do. It's totally morally neutral to you.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like putting a toddler in front of a hot stove
Perfect analogy, yeah.
and explaining the complex thermodynamics of why they shouldn't touch the glowing red coils.
Right, which they don't understand at all.
Exactly. And then punishing them severely when they inevitably reach out and touch it anyway.
Yeah, you just can't hold someone accountable for a moral failing when they completely lack the cognitive equipment to judge right from wrong.
The capacity for guilt requires a baseline understanding that they explicitly lacked until after the crime was committed.
Precisely. And that leads directly to the next logical hurdle the source brings up, which is the omniscience trap.
The omniscience trap.
Okay, let's examine the chain of responsibility here. If we accept the premise that the Creator is all-knowing,
Right.
then at the exact moment the garden, the tree, and the snake were created, it was already known with absolute certainty that the humans would eat the fruit.
Right, because omniscience means you know everything. It wasn't a guess, it was a known, locked-in outcome.
Exactly. And if the creator is all-powerful, they could have easily stopped it.
Or, better yet, just place the tree on another planet.
Right.
Or, just built a big wall around it.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, combining omniscience with omnipotence in this specific scenario, it changes the entire dynamic of the story.
How so?
Well, the creator ceases to look like a loving parent offering a fair test, and instead closely resembles a trapper who has carefully designed and set a snare.
Oh, wow.
A snare perfectly calibrated to catch a specific prey, just sitting there waiting for them to step into it.
And when they do step into it, the punishment doesn't just hit the people who trip the wire.
No, it doesn't.
It hits everyone who comes after them.
Right.
Which brings us to this massive moral dilemma.
Right.
I mean, think about modern society, or international law for that matter.
Yeah.
Our entire concept of justice is based on individual responsibility.
Absolutely.
If I commit fraud, the judge doesn't send my cousin to prison.
No, the legal term for that is collective punishment or bloodline punishment.
Right.
And it's universally condemned in modern ethics. In fact, under the Geneva Conventions, collective punishment is literally considered a war crime.
A war crime. Yet, the doctrine of original sin rests entirely on this premise.
It does. The idea that a distant ancestor's mistake means every single human child is born into this world carrying a guilty verdict.
It's completely at odds with any rational understanding of fairness.
It really is.
So we have a setup where the suspects didn't have the capacity to understand the crime.
Yeah.
The scene was fundamentally rigged by an all-knowing architect.
Right.
And the resulting verdict violates basic modern ethics.
That's the summary, yeah.
If the setup is this logically broken, we have to examine the punishment itself. Did the consequences even match the warning in the text?
This is where reading the actual text rather than just the cultural memory of the text is so important.
Okay.
Let's look at the broken contract. What was the exact rule given to the humans?
Remind us.
The text explicitly says, eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge, which we can label tree B, and you will die that very day.
That very day. I mean, that is a highly specific, legally binding time frame.
Exactly. Now enter the snake. The snake tells the humans, you won't die, but your eyes will be open to know good and evil.
And what actually happened?
Yeah.
They ate it.
They ate it.
And they didn't die that day.
No, they didn't.
According to Genesis, Adam lived to be over 900 years old.
Yeah, quite a bit longer than that very day.
And their eyes were opened. I mean, later in the text, it even says, behold, the man has become as one of us to know good and evil.
Right.
So if we are reading this impartially, the supposed villain of the story of the snake gave them the empirically accurate outcome?
He did. It's a glaring contradiction. The contract of immediate death presented by the creator was broken.
It was an empty threat.
Yes. But instead of the contract becoming void, we see these massive unilateral rule changes applied after the fact.
The post hoc rule changes. This is where the landlord burns down the house, like in our intro.
Exactly.
The actual punishments handed down were like expulsion from the garden, painful childbirth, a cursed earth that requires brutal agricultural labor.
And placing a flaming sword to guard the tree of life.
Right. And not one of those things was in the original terms and conditions.
Now hold on. Let me anticipate a counter-argument here that the source addresses.
Sure. What is it?
Many theologians, and probably some listeners, might say, well, the death wasn't physical. It was a spiritual death. A separation from the divine.
Right. That's super common.
So how does deductive logic handle that?
I'm really glad you brought that up because that is basically the most common patch applied to this story.
Yeah, it is.
But when you look at Genesis chapter 5, the text is unambiguous. It details Adam's lineage, states his age, and ends with, and he died.
Ah.
It is a literal physical death. The whole concept of spiritual death was a much later theological invention designed specifically to patch this exact logical hole.
Interesting.
Yeah, if we stick to the foundational text, physical mortality is the core issue at play.
Which brings us perfectly to what I think is the most brilliant structural deconstruction of this narrative from our source.
Oh, the tree matrix.
Yeah, the tree matrix.
Walk us through this, because this is where the math of the story just doesn't add up for me.
Okay, so if we analyze the text strictly as a binary logic problem regarding tree A, the tree of life, and tree B, the tree of knowledge,
Right.
the illusion of free will completely shatters.
Okay, how so?
What's fascinating here is how we can determine the factory setting of humanity by looking at the two possible states of their creation.
The factory setting, I like that.
Right. There are only two logical possibilities. Either humans were created immortal, meaning naturally living forever,
Okay.
or they were created mortal, naturally destined to age and die.
A simple binary. Immortal or mortal.
Exactly. Let's explore possibility one. Humans were created immortal.
Okay.
If they are already immortal, then eating from tree A, the tree of life, is completely redundant.
Oh, because it gives them something they already have.
Precisely. Therefore, the later reaction in the text where the humans are expelled and a flaming sword is placed to guard the tree of life so they don't eat it and live forever. That reaction makes absolutely no logical sense. They would already be living forever.
Wow. So a possibility one just collapses under the weight of the text's own internal logic.
Exactly. The presence of the flaming sword proves they weren't naturally immortal.
Okay, so what about possibility two?
Possibility two. Humans were created mortal. They were made from dust and naturally destined to return to dust.
Okay, tracking with you.
If this is true, then their physical death was already a guaranteed biological fact of their existence. It was their factory setting, which means eating from tree B, the tree of knowledge, didn't actually cause their mortality.
Oh man, wait. If they were already mortal, then the punishment of death for eating the apple wasn't a punishment at all.
Yeah.
It was just biology.
Exactly. Deductive reasoning proves that death in this narrative is a natural physical attribute of a created biological being. It's not a punitive consequence for a moral crime.
That is wild.
And this is vital. If you are mortal, eating tree B doesn't change your ultimate fate. Therefore, the free choice presented in the garden was a mathematical illusion.
Because the outcome was rigged from the start.
Yes.
If you don't choose tree A, you default to tree B's outcome of mortality. If you don't choose tree B, you default to tree A's outcome, except you aren't allowed to eat from tree A anyway.
Right, they were blocked from it.
The humans were trapped in a logical matrix where true autonomous choice literally didn't exist.
Yeah.
The track was already laid down.
Which raises an important question.
Okay.
We have thoroughly dismantled the structural integrity of the narrative at this point.
We really have.
We have a story where the suspects don't understand the crime, the contract is broken by the judge, the punishments are made up on the fly, and the foundational choice is a rigged matrix.
Right.
So why do billions of people still buy it?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Because, anti-rational, counterintuitive theories usually don't survive for thousands of years by accident.
No, they don't.
They survive because they have a hidden agenda, or they provide a massive utility to the people who believe them.
Exactly.
So what do we get out of believing this logically flawed myth?
Well, on an individual level, it provides an incredibly powerful psychological defense mechanism.
Like a way to cope.
Yeah, it's a form of escapism. Think about the daily reality of being human. We have to confront the external suffering of the world, like disease and natural disasters.
Yeah.
But we also have to confront the internal darkness of our own minds, our capacity for selfishness, greed, cruelty.
Yeah, think about the last time you, listening right now, made a genuinely selfish decision that hurt someone.
Right.
It is incredibly painful to look in the mirror and take 100% personal responsibility for that choice. It hurts to say, I did that because I am capable of being cruel.
It does. But original sin offers an ultimate excuse.
How so?
Instead of doing that rigorous moral inventory, you can just sigh and say, well, it's just my corrupted human nature. We are all fallen creatures. It shifts the blame from the individual's autonomous choice to an inherited, inescapable disease.
It completely lets you off the hook.
It does.
But it also does something to our view of the universe, doesn't it?
Right.
Because people are deeply unsettled by the idea of an indifferent universe.
Yes, absolutely. The psychological reality is that most humans would rather believe we are suffering from disease and earthquakes because we're being punished for an ancient crime.
Right.
Rather than accept the terrifying alternative, which is the universe is random and it simply doesn't care about us at all.
Yeah, a punishing narrative still implies that a parent is in charge.
Exactly. It implies there is order and that we matter enough to actually be disciplined.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Right.
Because it's not just about comforting individual psychology.
No.
If we look at this historically and sociologically, the original sin narrative operates as basically the greatest business model ever invented.
It's a very effective model, yeah.
It's the ultimate tool for institutional control.
It is a fascinating, if somewhat dark lens to view historical power structures through. From an organizational standpoint, this narrative is the perfect closed-loop system for generating permanent reliance.
Okay, break that down for us. How does that actually work in practice? How does a story breed reliance?
Well, you invent a fatal, invisible, virtual disease. In this case, original sin.
Okay.
And you convince everyone from the moment they are born that they are infected with it. You tell them their very nature is sick.
Right.
And then you position your specific institution as the only licensed pharmacy in the world that holds the cure.
The rituals, the ceremonies, the salvation.
Exactly.
I've actually seen this compared to psychological manipulation tactics, almost like mental castration. Or, to use a modern comparison, the tactics of a pickup artist.
That is an apt comparison.
Right.
What is the core tactic of psychological manipulation? Negging.
Negging, yeah.
Breaking down someone's self-esteem so they become completely dependent on your validation. To control someone, you convince them that they are fundamentally flawed, intellectually broken, and incapable of functioning on their own.
So applying that to a massive scale, if an institution convinces you from childhood that your natural instincts are inherently evil, and your logic is corrupted by this sin,
Yes.
you will never trust your own moral compass. When you feel guilt, you don't analyze your actions logically.
No, you don't.
You just attribute it to your innate sickness and run back to the institution for your medicine.
Precisely. If a person believes they are free, rational, and independent, they will not easily bow to external authority.
True.
But if they accept the premise of being a moral cripple from birth, they must outsource their moral authority. They rely on the institution's rituals simply to maintain a passing grade in existence.
And this is exactly why the logical contradictions of the story we discussed earlier, they can never be officially fixed or acknowledged by these institutions.
Oh, absolutely not. Because if you fix the story and admit the logic doesn't hold up, the virtual disease vanishes.
Poof.
And if the disease doesn't exist, the monopoly on the cure collapses overnight.
The entire power structure just evaporates.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the final hurdle. If the logic is so broken and the manipulation is so apparent when you really look at it, why don't more people reject it?
It comes down to a battle between intellectual laziness and critical thinking.
Yeah.
Facing the complex, unvarnished truth about human nature requires immense effort.
It really does. I mean, think about the alternative. It takes years of rigorous study to understand evolutionary biology.
It does.
It's incredibly difficult to comprehend how genetic imperatives, resource scarcity, and social conditioning create human selfishness. It takes actual hard work.
It's much harder.
On the other hand, it takes 5 seconds to say a talking snake tricked an ancestor and now we're all bad.
Right. Humans have a profound cognitive bias for simple, low-energy stories. A myth provides a packaged solution that allows people to huddle together in a shared belief system, avoiding the hard work of rational scrutiny.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
The ultimate takeaway from this analysis is a call to action.
Right.
Bite the real fruit of wisdom. And that fruit is logic.
Stop blindly following these ancient contradictory narratives just because they are familiar or comfortable.
It is an argument for intellectual emancipation. Many of the concepts that dictate human behavior don't survive because they are logically sound.
Right.
They survive because they are heavily subsidized by human fear, fragility, and the massive power structures that benefit from them. Recognizing the contradictions is the first step to reclaiming your genuine autonomy.
We started today by looking at a broken contract about a painted red door, a punishment that didn't fit a crime that couldn't possibly be understood by the perpetrators.
It did.
And we've seen how unpacking that contradiction unravels an entire global system of manufactured guilt. But I want to leave you with a final unscripted thought to mull over today as you go about your week.
Okay.
If the original sin, the supposed great crime that doomed humanity, was simply our ancient ancestors' desire to seek knowledge,
Yeah.
to understand the difference between good and evil, and to literally open their eyes to the true reality of the world, shouldn't we view the biting of that apple not as humanity's tragic fall, but as the triumphant spark of human consciousness and the very birth of scientific inquiry?
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep using that rational scalpel, keep questioning everything, and we'll see you next time.